Ladies and gentlemen, God's timing is perfect even when it feels slow. This truth becomes difficult to embrace when life places us in seasons of waiting, uncertainty, and unanswered prayer. Yet the slowness we feel is never slowness in God's eyes. God operates from eternity, not from our limited sense of time. He sees the beginning and the end simultaneously, and he knows the exact moment when things should unfold for our good and for his purpose. When we feel impatient, it is usually because we're measuring life through moments, minutes, and emotions, while God is shaping us through process, growth, and divine alignment. There are times you pray with sincerity, you cry with desperation, you fast with expectation, and still the answer seems delayed. But what you call a delay, God calls preparation. He works behind the scenes in ways you cannot see. He arranges people, positions opportunities, and molds your character so that when the blessing arrives, you are able to handle it without being destroyed by the weight of it. Many people want the promise, but not the preparation. They want the blessing, but not the strengthening process that keeps the blessing from slipping out of their hands. God, in his perfect timing, ensures that your spirit, your mind, and your environment are aligned with what he is about to release. Sometimes what feels slow is actually God protecting you from something premature. A premature blessing can become a burden. A door opened too early can bring confusion instead of clarity. A relationship allowed before maturity can create pain instead of joy. A promotion given before humility is developed can lead to pride and downfall. God is not withholding from you. He is shielding you from the consequences of your own urgency. His timing is not designed to frustrate you, but to fortify you. When God slows things down, he is strengthening your spiritual roots. Waiting forces you to trust more deeply than convenience ever will. It teaches you to depend on him instead of relying on your own understanding. It bends your will until it aligns with his perfect will. It purifies your motives and removes the distractions that would have diluted the blessing. It builds patience, endurance, maturity, and faith, qualities that cannot be formed in comfort. God cannot take shortcuts with your destiny because shortcuts create shallow faith. Slow seasons are where deep faith is born. Many times you will find that during the wait, God is not only preparing the blessing for you, he is preparing you for the blessing. He works internally before he works externally. He changes your mindset, enlarges your capacity, heals old wounds, closes doors that should never be reopened, and refines your desires. You may not recognize it while you're walking through it, but later you will see that the season you disliked was the season that transformed you. God does not delay without purpose. Every second is intentional. Even when it feels slow, God's timing is deeply connected to the right people entering your life at the right moment. God removes certain individuals not because they are bad, but because they are not aligned with where he is taking you. Some seasons require isolation, so God can speak clearly. Other seasons require new relationships, so you can grow. If God released everything at your preferred pace, you might attach blessings to people who were never meant to walk with you into your future. Divine timing protects your destiny from wrong partnerships and wrong environments. There is also spiritual warfare involved in timing. Sometimes God delays to cause the enemy's plans to collapse. What the enemy prepared against you may require divine timing to expire. God knows the traps you cannot see. He knows the dangers hidden behind opportunities that look appealing. A slower pace can be the shield that keeps you safe until the road is clear. When you think nothing is happening, heaven is actively working on your behalf, blocking attacks, dismantling threats, and ensuring the path ahead is secure. When you feel frustrated, remember that God is not bound by your deadlines. He is not pressured by your age, your fears, or your expectations. He knows how to restore wasted time. He knows how to accelerate seasons when the moment comes. What took others 10 years can take you 1 year when God's timing reveals itself. What felt slow can suddenly shift into divine speed. But the shift only comes at the moment He has ordained, because His plan is not merely to get you somewhere. His plan is to sustain you when you arrive. God's timing is perfect, even when it feels painfully slow. It is perfect because it is not shaped by emotion or circumstance. It is shaped by divine wisdom, eternal vision, and unconditional love. Relaxing is an act of faith, not passivity. When God calls you to relax, He is not asking you to sit still in defeat or indifference. He is calling you into a deeper posture of trust, where your spirit rests even when your circumstances are unsettled. True spiritual relaxation is the quiet confidence that the God who began a good work in you will complete it, and that His hands are stronger than your worries. It is the understanding that you do not need to force outcomes, manipulate situations, or push doors open that God has not yet unlocked. Relaxing in faith means letting God lead at His pace, rather than letting anxiety dictate your decisions. Many people misunderstand this divine rest. They think relaxing means doing nothing, abandoning responsibility, or withdrawing from life. But the relaxation God calls you to is different. It is a posture of the heart, not an escape from action. It is choosing peace over panic while still doing what you know is right. It is working with diligence while releasing the outcome to Him. It is praying with persistence while refusing to stress about how or when the answer will unfold. It is trusting that God is active even when you cannot see movement, and that your part and His part are not the same. You obey. He orchestrates. You sow. He brings the harvest. You step in faith. He establishes your path. Relaxing in faith requires surrender, because worry tries to convince you that you must be in control. Anxiety whispers lies. If you don't push harder, nothing will happen. If you don't rush, you'll be left behind. If you don't fix this yourself, everything will fall apart. These thoughts create pressure, fear, and exhaustion. But faith silences these lies by reminding you that God does not need your panic to fulfill His promises. He needs your trust. He needs your willingness to step aside so He can step in. He needs your heart to relax so He can pour out what He has prepared. Relaxation in faith is also a declaration of who God is. When you relax, you are saying, God, I believe you are good. I believe you are working. I believe you see what I cannot see. I believe you know what I do not know. I believe you have already gone ahead of me. This posture honors God more than striving ever could, because it shows that your confidence is not in your ability, but in His sovereignty. It transforms your inner atmosphere from chaos to calm, from fear to expectancy, from pressure to peace. There are situations in life where relaxing becomes the highest expression of trust. When doors close for no reason, relaxing says, God must be protecting me. When plans fall apart, relaxing says, there must be something better. When resources run low, relaxing says, God is my provider. When timing seems delayed, relaxing says, God is aligning everything perfectly. This kind of relaxation is warfare. It resists the enemy's attempts to overwhelm you with fear. It silences doubt and strengthens spiritual vision by keeping your heart anchored in God's faithfulness. Relaxing in faith creates space for God to move. When your mind is constantly anxious and your heart is restless, it becomes difficult to hear his voice. Fear clutters the spiritual atmosphere, drowning out the gentle whisper of God's guidance. But when you relax, your spirit becomes sensitive again. You begin to discern his leading. You notice the nudges, the impressions, the subtle shifts that point you toward his will. Relaxation is spiritual clarity. It positions you to receive divine instruction, fresh strength, and renewed perspective. Relaxation also allows God to heal what needs healing. Many people carry wounds, fears, and pressures that keep their hearts tense. When God tells you to relax, he is inviting you to let him touch those places. He wants to calm the storms inside you, not just the storms around you. He wants to remove the burden from your shoulders and replace it with his peace. He wants your soul to experience quietness so you can grow, recover, and be strengthened for what he has prepared next. Relaxing is not laziness, it is alignment. It is stepping out of your own striving and stepping into the flow of God's grace. It is refusing to be ruled by deadlines, comparisons, or internal pressure. It is learning to breathe again, to hope again, to trust again. It is choosing to be still enough for God to show you that he is God. It is the gentle but powerful surrender that says, Lord, I release control. Lead me, guide me, prepare me, and I will follow with peace in my heart. Delays are divine preparations, not denials. This truth becomes clearer the longer you walk with God, because you begin to recognize that his rhythm is different from human expectation. In moments where it seems like heaven is silent or progress is slow, something sacred is happening behind the scenes. What feels like a pause in your life is often a period of construction in God's hands. He is building, shaping, cleansing, aligning, and preparing things you cannot yet see. Many people interpret delay as rejection, but in God's kingdom, delay is often the proof that something meaningful is being orchestrated. A quick blessing may satisfy a moment, but a prepared blessing sustains a lifetime. When God delays, he is not ignoring your prayer. He is perfecting the path that leads to the answer. He sees obstacles ahead of you that you cannot perceive. He sees traps, wrong partnerships, premature opportunities, and hidden dangers that your eyes are not trained to detect. A delay becomes divine protection. Sometimes God slows you down so you do not walk into something that would break you. Other times he delays to ensure that the blessing he gives you will not slip through your fingers. He adjusts circumstances, rearranges environments, and clears the road so that when he finally says go, you will move into a place prepared and safe. There are seasons when God delays because your heart needs transformation. You may be asking for something that requires a version of you that does not exist yet. Blessings are weighty, and destiny requires capacity. God develops humility, patience, wisdom, maturity, and faith during seasons of waiting. Without these qualities, the very thing you pray for could become overwhelming instead of empowering. A promise received too early becomes a burden. Growth requires stretching, and delay becomes the environment in which God stretches your faith, enlarges your understanding, and strengthens your inner life. You may not enjoy the process, but you will always appreciate the result. In divine delays, God also works on your motives. Sometimes prayers that sound sincere on the surface carry hidden motives beneath. You might want a blessing to prove something to others, to heal a personal insecurity, or to satisfy an emotional longing rather than a spiritual calling. Delay purifies desire. It reveals whether you want God's will or simply your own way. Over time, your heart softens, your priorities shift, and your desire aligns with what God desires. When your motives become pure, the blessing becomes safe. A divine delay also allows God to set the stage for maximum impact. There are testimonies that require timing. There are breakthroughs that must happen after certain people have entered your life or after certain people have exited it. There are promises that depend on future events aligning perfectly, so the glory of God becomes unmistakable. If he answered you last year, the testimony would not have carried the weight it will carry next year. God's timing takes into account factors you cannot calculate. He is not only concerned about the blessing itself, but also about how that blessing will shape your destiny and influence the lives of those around you. Sometimes the delay is connected to someone else's preparation. God might be working in another person's heart, aligning their steps with yours, or preparing them to bless you or serve you in a way that is essential for the next chapter of your life. Destiny is interconnected. Your miracle may require another person's obedience, healing, or transformation. While you wait, God works on them too. Nothing is wasted in his timing. Delays often reveal your level of trust. In waiting seasons, God observes whether you will remain faithful, consistent, prayerful, and obedient. Will you worship while waiting? Will you praise without progress? Will you trust without evidence? Anyone can believe when answers are immediate. It takes mature faith to believe when heaven is quiet. The delay becomes training ground for unwavering trust. God strengthens your spiritual patience so that when the blessing arrives, your faith will remain steady and anchored, not shaken by circumstances. You also learn endurance in delay. Life's journey is long, and destiny requires stamina. If God answered everything instantly, you would not develop the resilience needed to carry long-term purpose. Delays deepen strength. They teach you how to walk through seasons without quitting. They teach you how to stand firm when feelings fluctuate. Endurance cannot be learned in comfort. It is developed in postponement. The delay becomes the place where you learn perseverance, and perseverance produces spiritual power. In divine delays, God is not withholding good things from you. He is preparing the best version of what he promised. He is aligning everything so that the blessing, when it comes, will come with fullness, stability, and longevity. What looks postponed is being perfected. What seems slow is being strengthened. What feels withheld is being prepared with precision you cannot yet comprehend. What God has ordained will come to you without striving. This truth stands like an anchor in a world that constantly pushes you to chase, compete, hurry, and fight for your place. When God has written something into your destiny, no force on earth and no scheme of the enemy can erase it. You do not have to manipulate outcomes, force connections, or exhaust yourself trying to make things happen by your own strength. What is divinely assigned to you carries its own momentum. It will move toward you at the moment God appoints, and when it arrives, it will fit your life with a grace that striving could never produce. Striving is usually born out of fear. Fear of missing out, fear of falling behind, fear of being overlooked, fear that God may not come through quickly enough. This fear tries to convince you that you must take matters into your own hands, that you must open every door, create every opportunity, and hold everything together. But striving creates exhaustion. Striving produces anxiety. Striving turns you into someone who is always running but never arriving. It disconnects you from the peace God designed for your path. What God ordains, however, does not require frantic effort. Ordained blessings come with divine favor, and favor does not demand force. Favor positions you. Favor speaks for you. Favor opens doors you never touched. Favor brings people into your life who recognize what God placed in you without you having to prove yourself. Favor releases opportunities that match your purpose without you chasing them. When something is ordained by God, it becomes magnetic. Your spirit, your steps, and your season align with it naturally, without pressure or frantic pursuit. This does not mean you become passive or careless. You still work, sow, serve, and prepare, but you do so with peace instead of panic. You do your part without trying to do God's part. You walk through open doors without trying to break down closed ones. You take steps forward without pushing beyond what God has graced you to handle. Your heart remains calm because you understand that effort and striving are not the same. You put in effort, but you refuse the burden of striving. Effort is obedience, striving is fear. When you trust that what is meant for you will come to you, your identity becomes rooted in God rather than in achievement. You no longer need validation through comparison or competition. You no longer feel threatened by someone else's progress because you recognize that no one can take what God has ordained for you. You are not in a race against people. You are in alignment with purpose. What belongs to you has your name on it, and what is not yours could never bless you even if you grabbed it. Grace protects you from collecting things that were never assigned to your life. There are times when God removes something you fought hard for, and it feels confusing or painful. But later, you see that it was not ordained for you. If you had forced it, it would have drained you. If you had kept it, it would have distracted you. What God ordains comes with ease, not because it is effortless, but because it is peaceful. You feel a sense of divine flow, divine timing, and divine alignment. The weight of forcing is replaced by the rest of trusting. You can always discern the difference between striving and divine ordination. Striving feels heavy, pressured, rushed, and unstable. Ordained blessings feel steady, peaceful, and aligned even when they require effort and perseverance. Striving demands that you constantly push to keep things alive. Ordained blessings carry life within themselves. They grow because God breathes on them. They remain because God sustains them. When something is ordained for your life, God sends confirmation after confirmation. Doors open without manipulation. Right people appear at the right time. Resources show up from unexpected places. Opportunities unfold in ways you could not engineer. The timing becomes supernatural. Events begin to align with precision. You look back and realize that your part was simply to trust, obey, and stay in position. God did the rest. This truth becomes even more powerful when you understand that destiny is not fragile. You cannot miss what God has written if you are seeking Him. Even your detours, mistakes, and delays cannot cancel His plan. God weaves everything together for your good. He restores what you lost, redeems what you wasted, and realigns what you broke. Nothing ordained for you can be stolen, delayed beyond purpose, or given to another. Your portion is protected in heaven, and heaven releases it at the perfect moment. Resting in this truth frees your mind from unnecessary battles. It frees your emotions from panic. It frees your spirit from the burden of control. It allows you to walk with confidence, knowing that you do not have to strive for what God has already assigned. The blessing will not slip away. The opportunity will not miss you. The calling will not pass you by. What God ordains is secured by His sovereignty, delivered by His timing, and sustained by His power. Trust replaces worry when you surrender control. Worry is the natural response of a heart that feels responsible for everything, every outcome, every solution, every detail of the future. It convinces you that if you don't hold everything tightly, life will fall apart. But trust is the spiritual response of a heart that recognizes the limits of human strength and the limitless power of God. Trust is not the absence of concern. It is the presence of confidence. It is the deliberate decision to shift the weight of your life from your own shoulders onto God's. When you surrender control, worry loses its authority and trust takes its place. Worry thrives where control is idolized. The more you try to manage every scenario, predict every outcome, and anticipate every possibility, the more anxious your heart becomes. Life cannot be controlled into peace. It can only be entrusted to God. Worry is often a sign that we are trying to do God's job. We think, if I don't figure this out, no one will. If I don't plan every detail, things will collapse. If I don't fix this, it will stay broken. But surrender is the moment you admit, Lord, I was never meant to carry this alone. Trust begins where human ability ends. It is the place where you recognize that God sees the full picture while you see only fragments. Surrendering control to God does not mean avoiding responsibility. It means accepting your role and releasing the rest. You act in obedience, you take steps of faith, you do what is within your ability, but you refuse to bear the weight of outcomes that belong to God alone. When you trust like this, your heart experiences deep rest. You stop trying to foresee every problem and instead believe that God will meet you at every step. Trust becomes the bridge that carries you from anxiety into peace. Trust also requires acknowledging that God's wisdom is superior to your desires. Sometimes you worry because you fear God will not give you what you want, or He will choose a path that feels unfamiliar or uncomfortable. But surrender means believing that God's way is not only right, His way is better. He sees consequences you cannot predict. He sees timing you cannot calculate. He sees connections, opportunities, and dangers you are unaware of. When you believe that God knows better, your need to control every detail begins to dissolve, and trust becomes the natural posture of your heart. Worry drains your energy, but trust renews it. Worry steals today's strength to fight battles that may never come. It consumes your thoughts, disrupts your sleep, and fuels fear-filled imaginations, but trust restores clarity. It centers your mind. It resets your emotions. It reminds you that you are not alone and that your life is not spiraling outside of God's plan. Trust brings stability even when circumstances remain uncertain. You become anchored not in what you see, but in who God is. Surrendering control teaches you to walk by faith rather than by sight. When you rely on sight, you panic at every obstacle and fear every unknown. But when you trust God, you learn to obey even when you don't understand. You learn to move forward even when everything isn't clear. You learn to rest even when answers haven't come. Trust allows you to remain calm in conditions that once terrified you. It becomes the shield that guards your heart from the fiery arrows of worry. There are moments when surrender feels difficult because trust requires vulnerability. It means opening your hands and releasing your grip. It means letting God touch the areas you've been protecting out of fear, but God can only heal what you release. He can only guide what you surrender. He can only transform what you place in His hands. The beauty of surrender is that it does not weaken you. It strengthens you. It removes the burden you were never created to carry and replaces it with the strength of God. Trust also redefines your relationship with the future. Worry imagines a future without God in it. Trust imagines a future where God is already working. Worry asks, what if things go wrong? Trust answers, what if God is preparing something right? Worry projects fear. Trust projects faith. When you surrender control, your thoughts shift from panic to purpose, from fear to expectation, from dread to hope. Your heart becomes steady because you know that God is already in tomorrow, arranging everything according to His perfect will. As trust grows, worry loses its power. The situations that once overwhelmed you no longer shake you. You begin to live with quiet confidence, knowing that whatever comes, God is with you and God is for you. Trust does not eliminate challenges, but it changes how you walk through them. Worry looks at the mountain and fears it. Trust looks at the mountain and remembers the one who moves it. Your miracle will arrive suddenly and right on time. This is one of the most comforting truths for a heart that has been waiting, praying, and longing. Many people become discouraged because they do not see immediate results. They cry out, fast, pray, and work hard, yet everything seems to move slowly. In those moments, it is easy to assume that God has forgotten them or that their prayers will go unanswered. But the truth is that God's timing is never early, never late, and never mistaken. The miracle you have been believing for is moving toward you, and when it appears, it will arrive suddenly, fully formed, and exactly when it is meant to. The element of suddenness is important because miracles are not meant to be gradual in a way that diminishes their impact. When God releases something, it comes in completeness, not in fragments. What you have been waiting for, what you have been hoping for, and what you have been trusting for will arrive at once, leaving no room for doubt. Sometimes people fail to recognize the miracle because it does not fit their expectations. They are looking for a slow, predictable change, while God's way is supernatural, abrupt, and unmistakable. The suddenness of God's intervention serves as a testimony that it could only have been Him. It is not by human effort, it is not by chance, it is not by timing that you could control. It is divine. Miracles are aligned with seasons, and timing is everything. You may have prayed for something last year, and it did not come. You may have fasted, interceded, or prepared in ways that felt exhausting. Yet God's delay was intentional. He was positioning circumstances, removing obstacles, refining your faith, and arranging people, resources, and events so that when the miracle arrives, it fits perfectly into your life. Every preparation, every test, every season of waiting has been a necessary part of the process. The timing of your miracle is not random. It is exact, precise, and ordained to maximize blessing, impact, and purpose. The right time for a miracle is often linked to spiritual readiness. Some miracles cannot manifest until you have developed the faith, patience, and character to receive them. If God were to release everything immediately, you might not be equipped to handle it. Blessings too soon can overwhelm, distort, or even destroy. That is why waiting is a spiritual tool. While you wait, God strengthens you internally so that the external manifestation of your miracle will be handled with wisdom, humility, and faith. Your miracle does not arrive early because it must meet the conditions of divine readiness, both in your life and in the situation surrounding it. Miracles are also a testimony to others. When your breakthrough happens suddenly and perfectly timed, it speaks louder than words. It demonstrates the power of God and confirms His faithfulness. If miracles arrived gradually or inconsistently, they might be mistaken for natural occurrences or coincidences. But sudden, timely miracles leave no doubt. They are unmistakably supernatural. They glorify God, inspire faith in others, and confirm that waiting in faith is never wasted. Your testimony is connected to the timing of your miracle. It is designed to show that God's ways are higher than human understanding. Faith plays a critical role in receiving your miracle. Even when it seems slow, even when nothing is happening visibly, your faith keeps the channel open. You continue to believe, hope, and trust. Faith holds the space for the miracle to appear. Many miracles fail to reach fruition simply because people give up before God moves. But when you maintain belief, when you keep your heart expectant, your miracle has a platform on which to manifest. Faith does not create the miracle, but it aligns you with God's power and prepares your spirit to recognize and receive it the moment it arrives. Miracles arrive at God's appointed time to fulfill His purpose, not ours. You may want immediate relief, instant provision, or a quick solution, but God's timing ensures that the miracle carries eternal significance. It is never random or incidental. What He sends is designed to bless you, teach you, protect you, and position you for what lies ahead. Sometimes the miracle is delayed so that it coincides with other events, people, or seasons that must be in place. The right moment enhances the impact, multiplies the blessings, and amplifies the testimony, making the miracle unmistakably divine in origin. Patience and expectancy are essential while waiting. The human heart struggles with delay because it measures by sight and circumstance, while God measures by purpose and eternity. Your miracle is coming, even if today you cannot see it. God is moving in ways invisible to you, aligning the pieces, orchestrating outcomes, and preparing the path. When it arrives, it will be complete, unmistakable, and perfectly timed. The delay is not denial, the silence is not neglect, and the waiting is not wasted. It is the season of preparation before sudden blessing, and your miracle is advancing toward you with divine precision.